Hey everybody, how's it going? So today I wanted to follow up on a video I did regarding insurance a week ago. I was giving my general thoughts on insurance, why I think in many areas insurance winds up being a scam to the customer, because insurance tends to take as much money in as possible, but then use fine print in the contract to avoid paying it out, or a silly interpretation of the fine print to avoid paying it out. Many people said that I don't understand insurance, I don't read my policy, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter that I was actually a licensed and certified insurance salesman in the city of New York back in 2008. I still got my paperwork for that somewhere here. I also was a certified health insurance salesperson. I got to work for a healthcare company, and I got to learn about what it's like to sell healthcare insurance and what it's like to when you work at the company that doing everything they can to avoid actually paying out claims to the customers that you had sold. It was a very interesting and enlightening experience to me. And when I was discussing the business interruption insurance, a lot of people said, today I learned that Lewis doesn't get insurance. Today I learned Lewis never reads his policies. I do read my policies, but the point I was getting at is that there's always going to be some little bit of legalese on page 76 or something that keeps them from paying out, or they will interpret the policy in a certain way to keep you from ever actually getting money. And people will say, well, you didn't buy the right rider. Why didn't you buy the right rider? Why didn't you clarify that it covers this thing? Why didn't you clarify that it covers that thing? Why don't you go to court? It makes sense to have to go to court to get what you paid for. So today I'd like to give you what I believe is a really clear-cut example of my point that insurance companies often look to avoid paying out claims. They take in the money, they pay the money to the staff or the upper staff as bonuses, and then screw you when it comes time to pay out. Similar to AIG paying a bunch of people $3.5 billion and not leaving enough money in the kitty for when there was an actual crisis. But let's take a look at this over here. Star Cinema Grill owner suing insurance company after told pandemic insurance doesn't cover COVID-19 crisis. We're no longer talking about business interruption insurance where you could say, well, your business wasn't interrupted for one of these reasons, so it doesn't count. We're talking about pandemic insurance that's specifically there to cover pandemics. Let's read on. The insurance market for Star Cinema Grill theaters claims the company is not covered by pandemic insurance because COVID-19 is not a named disease. A local dine-in theater company thought it was prepared for a crisis like COVID-19 when public health officials forced the closure of its 9 Houston area locations in March. The owners thought they were covered. For medium-sized businesses that purchase this policy, it gives them peace of mind that they are going to have some sort of revenue. Okay, that sentence is kind of confusing, but you get the point. Said Michael Howish, an attorney for SCGM, which operates Star Cinema Grills and district theaters. The pandemic event insurance policy was marketed by underwriters as a way to boost your establishment's immunity and vaccinate your bottom line during an outbreak. As advertised, the coverage would reimburse loss of wages, cleaning, and other mitigation-related costs and crisis management expenses if a public health authority shut down operations. Star Cinema Grill signed up, paying nearly $40,000 in premiums for $1 million in coverage, according to Awash. But he said instead of peace of mind, his clients had experienced headache and hassles after filing a claim. Already it appears to us that Lloyd's of London is backing out and trying to renege on these types of claims. He filed the lawsuit against certain underwriters at Lloyd's in federal court Friday after he said its insurance broker claimed his client is not covered because COVID-19 is not a named disease. The policy lists more than 24 pathogens, including SARS-associated coronavirus, and any mutations or variations of the disease. Hawash said, according to World Health Organization and Centers for Disease Control, it is clearly a variation. The National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases on its website states that COVID-19 was previously named SARS-CoV-2. Star Cinema Grill has an expectation, since it's done its part, paid its premium, that the insurance company is going to stand up and do what its part is, which is to pay the claim, Hawash said. So they're trying to say that, yeah, it's a pandemic, but it's not one of the pandemics that we named. So even if you pay for pandemic insurance so that you can get a payout if there's a pandemic in your area that keeps your movie theater or your restaurant from being able to open, you're still not covered if it's not on the list of pandemics that we chose. Now, they claim we will cover it if it's a variation. And even when the scientific community has a consensus that this is a variation, the insurance company is saying that it's not a variation, which goes back to my original point that they will pull every fucking trick in the book to avoid paying out the policy. They will do everything they can to interpret the wording of the policy to not mean something that will get you money. The CDC would disagree with this insurance company. Most doctors would disagree with this insurance company. Most scientists would disagree with the insurance company's interpretation. That doesn't matter. They're not going to pay out the money. They're not there to pay out the money. They're there to take the money and then use every excuse in the book in an army of lawyers to ensure that they don't pay you out the money. Because it is cheaper to pay the army of lawyers to just keep you at bay and hope you go away than it is to actually pay out the claims. If insurance worked the way that people said it does, which is I pay for my insurance, and if something happens that's terrible, then I'm covered, then most people wouldn't have a problem with insurance. The reason people have problems with insurance is because it doesn't pay out. If it paid out, I would have no problem with it. I would have a lot more insurance than I do right now for a bunch of different areas if I actually believed that this wasn't some sort of nonsense Ponzi scheme. The reason that people have the beliefs about insurance that they do is reading stuff like this, where a company actually tries to say that pandemic insurance does not cover COVID-19 because it's not on our list of approved viral pandemics. Like, this is a joke. This is an absolute and utter joke. And I feel terrible for the movie theater because what they did is the right thing. After I had been in business for 3.5 years, I said, I have a store now, I have employees, I have a real business, and I need to protect that real business. So I spoke to a person at the Hartford, and I said, here's what I'm looking for, here's what I need, what do you recommend? They recommended me something, they told me what it would cover, and then when it came time to pay out, they came out with some BS reason as to why it was they wouldn't pay out. And people are growing sick and tired of this. And what really bothers me and makes me sad more than anything else is when I hear this type of infighting between individuals where people will use this as a moment to seem smarter than everybody else. Like, the reason your insurance isn't paying out is because you're stupid. You're stupid. You couldn't read. You're an illiterate idiot who couldn't read your policy. Like, what did this Star Cinema Grill, what did they misread? What part of their policy did they misread when it said it covers these pandemics or variations of? They didn't misread anything. And people using that as a means to beat each other over the head, it gets us to ignore what we should actually be focusing on, which is asking insurance companies to be held to account and take accountability and responsibility for the fact that they took money, they took the premiums for these policies, now they got to do what they promised, which is pay them out. And what they rely on is that we're all just going to be fighting amongst ourselves so that they never actually get to be taken to task for what it is they're doing. As long as we're all fighting amongst ourselves and saying, you're an idiot for buying the wrong policy. No, you're an idiot for expecting it to pay out. No, you're an idiot for not getting the right rider. Who's going to hold them to account? We're all at each other's throats. Because when I read the comments in that video, there's a lot of people that wanted to feel superior for the fact that they felt like this was only happening to the dumb people that made bad choices. And I hope that news stories like this point out to you that in times like this, you're going to figure out just how immoral many insurance companies actually are. I mean, this was just mentioned today in a press conference from the president as well.
Business interruption insurance. I'd like to see these insurance companies. You have people that have paid. When I was in private, I had business interruption. When my business was interrupted through a hurricane or whatever it may be, I'd have business where I had it. I didn't always have it. Sometimes I had it. Sometimes I have a lot of different companies. But if I had it, I'd expect to be paid. You have people, I speak mostly to the restaurateurs, where they have a restaurant, they've been paying for 25, 30, 35 years, business interruption. They've never needed it. All of a sudden they need it. And I'm very good at reading language. I did very well in these subjects, okay? And I don't see the word pandemic mentioned. Now, in some cases it is. It's an exclusion. But in a lot of cases, I don't see it. I don't see reference, and they don't want to pay up. I would like to see the insurance companies pay if they need to pay, if it's fair. And they know what's fair, and I know what's fair. I can tell you very quickly. But business interruption insurance, that's getting a lot of money to a lot of people. And they've been paying for years. Sometimes they just started paying. But you have people that have never asked for business interruption insurance, and they've been paying a lot of money for a lot of years for the privilege of having it. And then when they finally need it, the insurance company says, we're not going to give it. We can't let that happen.
Almost anyone with their eyes open can see what is going on here, and almost anybody who has experienced this as a business owner or a landlord who's had to get money from an insurance policy when something happens understands how the system works. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. This here is Blackberry the kitten, and she's keeping me company. I hope you all have a kitten to keep you company as well. Good kitty. I love you, little Blackberry. You're my kitten. Love you very much. Who's a good girl? Good girl.